So this week, President Trump will head to the Middle East. It's his first foreign trip of his second administration. The president is set to visit Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and the UAE. The ceasefire in Gaza is at the top of the agenda, along with discussions on oil trade and semiconductor exports. While in Qatar, President Trump is expected to accept what could be the most valuable gift ever given to a U.S. president from a foreign government. Sources tell ABC News the royal family of Qatar is preparing to deliver a luxury Boeing 747-8 jumbo jet valued at $400 million. Administration officials say it would be used by President Trump as the new Air Force One.
He will make stops in Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and the UAE over the next several days, and notably no plans to visit Israel. The trade war, ongoing attacks in the Middle East, and peace talks in the Russia-Ukraine war are expected to dominate much of that discussion.
Now, Saudi Arabia was also Trump's first foreign trip during his first term, and he's once again breaking tradition by skipping over America's closest neighbors. This signals the close political and economic ties between the U.S. and Saudi Arabia under the Trump administration. Back in 2016, newly elected Donald Trump balked at the cost.
It's going to be over $4 billion. It's for Air Force One program. And I think it's ridiculous. I think Boeing is doing a little bit of a number. We want Boeing to make a lot of money, but not that much money.
But in 2017, 1 month into his first term, negotiations with Boeing seemed to be moving forward.
We're also working on the Air Force One project, which was a difficult project for previous administrations, but it looks like we're getting closer and closer.
Boeing's most recent estimated delivery date is now 2027, but Trump has made it clear he wants a new plane this year. Just before the end of his term, ownership of the plane would transfer to the Trump Presidential Library Foundation, according to sources familiar with the proposed arrangement. The unusual and unprecedented gift of this luxury jet is sure to raise questions.
We are back with an ABC News exclusive. The Trump administration is preparing to accept a luxury jet from the royal family of Qatar in what may be the most valuable gift ever given to the United States by a foreign government. Sources familiar with the arrangement say the Boeing 747-8, known as a Palace in the Sky, will be available for use by President Trump as the new Air Force One when he leaves office. Ownership of the aircraft will be transferred to the Trump Presidential Library Foundation.
A luxury Boeing 747-8, and news of the plane is proving controversial. CBS's Willie James Enman is at the White House with the details. Willie.
Tarika, good evening to you. The Gulf nation of Qatar says the gift of a luxury jumbo jet to serve as a presidential aircraft for Donald Trump is, quote, under consideration. Whatever it is, gift or plan, it comes as the president prepares for a three-nation trip to the Middle East.
President Trump has already toured the 747-8. It happened in February when the luxury jet was flown to Palm Beach, Florida. CBS News has learned it's poised to be a gift from Qatar's royal family. It is not ready for presidential use and would need to be retrofitted. The president, who departs Monday to Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and the UAE, will use one of the 747s that have served as Air Force One since the first President Bush. The value of the gift from a foreign power is sparking legal and ethical concerns. Maryland Democrat Jamie Raskin posting on X, "The Constitution is perfectly clear. No present of any kind whatever from a foreign state without congressional permission." The White House press secretary says the administration will comply with the law.
And plans to accept a luxury Boeing 747 from a ruling family. He plans to turn it into a temporary Air Force One aircraft. The government of Qatar has acknowledged the, quote, possible transfer of a plane. However, they deny the jet is being gifted or that a final decision has been made. According to ABC News, Mr. Trump would use the plane until shortly before he would leave office in January of 2029, and then the aircraft would be transferred to the foundation coordinating his yet-to-be-built presidential library.
The number of flights in and out of Newark Liberty International Airport will change for the next several weeks. That airport has struggled with radar outages, flight delays, and cancellations, and a shortage of air traffic controllers. Today, a telecommunications issue caused problems yet again.
Well, look what happened just a few hours ago. At 8:30 this morning, for the third time in a few weeks, the screens at Newark Airport went black. A stretch of chaos that lasted far too long, 45 minutes. So I'm here today to say that the FAA must put Newark first and must put everything they've got into fixing Newark ASAP.
Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer is demanding the federal government put Newark first in line to get some much-needed upgrades. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy told NBC he will meet with airlines this week to determine the best way of reducing traffic at Newark for the foreseeable future.
Moments ago, the White House responded that any gift given by a foreign government is always accepted in full compliance with all applicable laws. President Trump's administration is committed to full transparency. The Qatari government put out their own statement disputing the reporting, saying the matter is still under review and that a decision has not yet been made. There are already some chuckles at this table.
They're trying to manifest it into existence.
Okay. Jeremy, what do you make of what's being called this floating palace in the sky?
Well, I think this is a classic example of the way that Trump has completely blurred the lines between public responsibility and the presidency and his personal private gain. And you've seen this time and time again, whether it is having events, official events at his golf course, right, to the tune of tens of millions of dollars, I believe, in some cases. You see it all, even in his keeping of certain documents, right? Like, remember, the whole raid at Mar-a-Lago was because he kept government documents. They belong to the government, not to a president. And he refused to give those up because he treats the whole presidency as if it is his office and not the American people's. So why wouldn't he then assume that the presidential jet belongs to him and not the American people? So it sounds like if this goes through, which, there's some open questions there, that he's going to hang on to this after his presidency.
People talk about prosperity gospel. This is like prosperity politics, right? That as long as he's doing well and the body sees him doing well, then the body's going to be good. And that's just not the way it works. That sort of trickle down sort of wealth, that's never happened in the history of our country. And so you get the sense that, well, this is really just about him.
I remember when the president would ever head to the Middle East, they would always include countries like Israel, Egypt, and Jordan, who were kind of considered as the security allies of the United States in the region. He's not going to any of those three on this first trip to the Middle East like it was back in 2016.
Side of the jet with this trip to the Middle East, and does this luxury plane from Qatar raise any red flags in Washington?
Yeah, well, first of all, the fact that the president is choosing Saudi Arabia as the first major foreign trip of his second term just signifies this growing political and economic relationship between the U.S. and Saudi Arabia under the Trump administration. You'll remember that Saudi Arabia was also where President Trump had chosen to take his first foreign trip in his first term, and he's once again breaking tradition by skipping over America's closest neighbors. Now, this does come as the Gulf has played a critical role in mediating conflicts around the world, including the war in Ukraine, with Saudi Arabia serving as a venue for separate U.S. talks with both Russia and Ukraine. This also comes as the Trump administration is trying to make progress when it comes to the humanitarian crisis and the war in Gaza. Now, when it comes to that luxury plane, it certainly raises questions about whether or not it's legal for the Trump administration and ultimately the Trump Presidential Library Foundation to accept such a valuable gift from a foreign power. But sources are telling us that both the White House and the Department of Justice have concluded that because the gift doesn't come with any conditions, it's not conditioned on any official act, they're considering that this does not constitute bribery.
Mick, what's most at stake as President Trump meets with these leaders?
So, Phil, of course, there is a lot of economic aspects to this, particularly investments in the United States when it comes to these countries. But it's also important to point out that a lot of our military assets in the region are housed and hosted by these countries.